Howdy everyone. Back at the bench, I've got the Throttle Quadrant filler panel thing back on the bench, obviously unclecoed from the airplane. And what I've been working on is, again, I brought out my poster board, and I've made a template of what I believe I want to have in the fuselage. So this incorporates the front plate of the Quadrant here, and then it's also gonna basically cover the cables. So this is gonna make up the front cover here, and then it extends forward basically to hide the cables that are going to come out of here, the 3 cables. So this is going to be roughly something like that. And then this top part here is going to get folded over to make, so this length here will get folded over 90 degrees to basically continue this flat face here. And I'll explain that after I get the after I get this cut and bent on the aluminum. It will make sense. But this is basically going to be bent like that. This piece is going to be up, but it's going to be shorter. Stand by. Let me do this by hand real quick. So this is going to basically look like that. So where my hand is here, this open hole here is where the throttle quadrant is going to sit. And then the rest of it going forward will just be a cover basically for the cables. Now this top part here is going to be flat, horizontal, almost like an armrest, but it's going to be way forward. But my point is, it being a flat surface, I could put stuff on here. I don't know if I'd want to put a couple of switches, push buttons, USB charging jacks, some decorative lighting, cup holder, who knows. But I'm not there yet. And I thought about maybe putting some lightning holes in this, but I doubt that I will, because the point of this is to cover up the cables. If I'm going to Swiss cheese it, I might as well just not even put it on. So at this point, I'm happy with this. I've tried it in the airplane with this clecoed in place. It seems to fit quite well. Of course, it's not going to be that nice once I get done bending it, because I don't have a bender. I got to do it all by hand. So this is the template. I'll transfer this over to the aluminum, and then I'll cut it, bend it, shape it, file it, deburr it, whatever. And then I'll put the holes in it so this can mount to the Quadrant. Okay? All right, see you. Well, there it is. This is the finished product. So just as a quick recap, these aluminum pieces here, I had originally put shrink wrap around to take up the small gap between them and these individual brass tabs. However, when I fit it to this aluminum piece here, that was just way too tight. So I cut the heat shrink tubing off. I drilled these holes ever so slightly closer to one another, which pulled the bolts in, and it took up the majority of that gap. There's still a little bit of a space in here, but I'm okay with that because these brass pieces need to slide up and down. They need to slide along this tube ever so slightly when you do your friction adjustment. So as you tighten this, it will draw these tighter, or if you loosen it, it loosens them a little bit, and that adjusts the drag on your controls. So it's very minimal. I'm happy with it. I'm going to leave it like that. I put a washer between this tie down, or this friction knob, and where it actually rides against this spacer here. I put a small washer between the two just so I don't have this grinding on this part. Of course, I've got the bottom 2 bolts, as I had showed you before, are nut plated. And then the top 2, of course, that corner there and that corner there just are nuts. And of course, those will get replaced with the actual flight hardware nuts here in a minute. Here's the top. That's the top piece. It's probably kind of hard to see with all the reflections. It came out okay. Like I said, I got to bend by hand. And the top part here is a little battered. I don't know why. I just screwed up and used the wrong hammer. When I had bent the center part for the flap handle, that came out nice because I knew what hammer to use. And for some reason, I just grabbed the wrong hammer and I beat this up pretty good right along this edge here. But it will be fine because I'm going to paint this cover when the weather gets warm, hopefully never. I'm going to paint this cover with the same hammered brown that I had used for that center part, so I'm not too concerned. And I think that's it. But with this quadrant attached to this plate here on this, adding this front cover made the feel of the entire assembly quite a bit better. And I noticed that this friction seems to be a lot more effective for all 3 controls. Initially, it seemed like it would tighten this one the most. If I tighten this friction knob, it put more friction on this, a little bit less on this, and even less on this. Now they seem to be quite even all the way across. That's just an observation. So let me get this into the airplane and I'll show you what it looks like with it installed.